Hi, everyone. It's Berenice here, Senior Vice President of Government Relations and Civic Engagement at Ultimed. I'm here with my super amiga and comadre, Sonia Diaz, who heads up the UCLA Latino Policy and Politics Institute. And so we want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on right now at the polls across the country, the implications that what is it going to mean for Latinos, for mujeres, for women's rights, for all the things. And so why don't you give us a quick kind of overview of what we're seeing across the country right now?
Absolutely. What we're dealing with is a midterm election. So right now, Congress is in question. Dems have to maintain their very slim majority of the U.S. Senate. So if they lose a Senate seat and don't pick up one, then it's going to go to the other party, the Republicans, to control that body. Now the House has been in big discussions because historically, after a presidential year, the other party that is not in the White House will clean up, as they say, and really take advantage of having, in some ways, bipartisan kind of governance system where right now we have President Biden, a Democrat, and it's likely that the House of Representatives is going to be a Republican. But the polls are still open in the West Coast, and there's still parts of the Midwest where you have to count the ballots. So it's not going to be decided tonight. It might not be decided in a week. But what we're seeing is really, really close contests in the toss-up seats. And that can go either way.
Yeah, so, we talk about often, even amongst ourselves, like how our communities feel disengaged, not represented. And so sometimes when we're waiting for the ballots to be counted, or maybe the votes are not going the way that we want them to go, we start to hear a lot of rhetoric and misinformation or disinformation, right? So what should folks be prepared to see, right, and to feel?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things is that we have been in this collective event together, which is COVID-19. And though COVID-19 isn't front and center in our news, there are health things on the ballot, whether it is Medicaid expansion or a woman's right to choose and bodily autonomy. Ultimately, some states are actually voting on whether or not there's a constitutional right to abortion. California is one of those states. So sit tight. Things aren't going to be called tonight. You can rest assured that if you cast a ballot, follow to make sure that that ballot was counted. Cure your ballot if you had to do a signature and for whatever reason they're throwing it out. But ultimately, for those of you that participated in democracy, this is a really exciting time. And it's important to have voices, even those voices that are aging into the electorate, and this is your first time voting.
Yeah, and then on that point, right? Getting folks engaged and excited, right? I'm feeling some momentum tonight.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think we woke up maybe wanting to cry a little bit because we didn't know.
Because of the rain, or you didn't know the turnout?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going to happen, right? And we were feeling like voter apathy, maybe a little apathy ourselves, and kind of a little kick down, right? With everything that's on the ballot this time around, right? So how are you feeling right now with what we're starting to see?
So I can speak to Southern California. There's a lot of contests that are really competitive that have first-time candidates. And this includes the city of Los Angeles, city council districts, and then even like citywide, the controller is a young Asian American. If Kenneth Mejia wins, he's going to be the first Asian American to win citywide in the city of Los Angeles. That's historic. In places like Orange County and also in Los Angeles County, you're seeing contests between either two Dems that are of color or a Dem and a Republican, and seeing ultimately who's able to speak to a community and get those people out. California is a microcosm of the nation for all intents and purposes. So the Central Valley, you have Rudy Salas from the state legislature running as homegrown candidate. We'll see if they're able to do a Democratic victory of a seat that is almost 65% Latino citizen voting age population.
Right.
So those are the things I'm excited about the first, but I'm also excited that there seems to be a very eclectic and dynamic enthusiasm for these particular candidates. Whether or not they care about top of the ballot, they really are bought into these small local races.
Right, and so we are, again, very excited about what's happening tonight, right? But representation, right, is always on the ballot. The health, women's rights, the whole thing, but representation, we talk about that a lot as well. So what are we seeing on the Latino side specifically, right? And maybe what are the areas for improvement in the future, but really in focusing in the now, right?
Yeah.
What are we seeing right now in terms of representation, and why does it matter for our communities?
Well, I think that when we think about where we can go together of dealing with existential crises, whether it's climate change, it's income inequality, it's being able to afford housing that is safe, having good schools. All of this comes down to the ability to vote and to engage and hold people accountable. So casting a ballot is actually holding people accountable. You have a lot of people who are likely going to beat incumbents. This includes congressional races, but also city races, and that's accountability. I'm really excited to see what happens.
Yeah, and what about Latinas in particular?
There are a lot of Latina first. One of the things that I think is most important, if we start with the most important races in the country, Nevada, and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, whether or not she's able to get another 6-year term is going to be important not just for the country, but for Latinos and Latinas. Nevada is a big labor state. This is, under Harry Reid, consistently a state for the Dems, but they needed investment. Latinas and Latino voters in particular are going to be consequential in places like Arizona with Senator Mark Kelly, whether or not he's going to be able to win a full term. In Georgia with Stacey Abrams for governor, but also Senator Warnock, is he going to win a full term? And finally, this pickup potentially for the Dems in Pennsylvania. In Pennsylvania and in Georgia, Latinos are 6% of the electorate.
Right.
With black voters, with Asian voters, with progressive whites, that's a winning coalition.
Yeah. And so, of course, the midterm elections are so exciting, right? But we have a longer game here.
Correct.
That we need to, keep our eye on the prize, right? And think more long term, not just in these like 2-year kind of increments, right? So, as we close out here, like, what do you want to leave folks with? Like, how do we keep them engaged over the next couple of years so that we don't lose this amazing momentum that I'm feeling tonight, which is so exciting?
That's really important, of thinking about, you have a voice, you're using it, keep using it. It's part of both the accountability, but also saying that you yourself are a leader with opinions that matter. And whether or not you have Ultimate and community clinics engaging you into the civic participation electoral outcomes is important, but you should still always turn out to vote. You're important.
So you heard it here, right? It's important to vote. Your representation matters. We're so excited for the outcome of this election. And Sonia, we thank you for being on with us tonight.
Thank you.